Hello? Check. Checkaroo. Testing. Test. 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 Good evening. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. It's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting to order.
Troy Lemire.
Kevin Bishop. Paul Marino.
Paul Harrington.
Connor Shalashi.
Glenn Albanesius.
William Hester.
Cheryl Heffernan McGlynn.
William Pozo.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, agenda review. Anyone have anything? Item 4, approval of minutes from our regular meeting on December the 1st.
So moved.
Thank you, Troy. Is there a second? Thank you, Bill. Any discussion, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous? Moving on to item 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less and may speak once. Please give your name and address. And just a reminder, this isn't a back and forth between you and the Board of Selectmen. It's your opportunity to share your comments. Please turn the microphone on. If anyone.
Sign-in sheet?
We do not.
You gotta push the little
Red
microphones there until it turns green.
There you go.
There you go.
Nope.
Yep,
There you go.
you got it.
Thank you. Carrie Taylor, 2 Sadler Heights. I'd like to inform our community of the circumstances surrounding the safety of 4 dogs, of which the town has temporary custody from the Sarah Smollett cruelty case that broke in our town earlier this year. Sarah Smollett, as a reminder, is now charged with 42 counts of animal cruelty. During the civil proceedings between the town and Smollett, the court expressly stated Smollett could not have any control over the dogs seized under the search warrant. Further, the court-approved agreement between the town and Smollett states that the Simon Foundation, who is charged with finding foster placement for the dogs, had until July 1st to find suitable fosters before Smollett's suggestions could even apply for consideration as fosters. However, per details of the police report, prior to July 1st, not only were Smollett associates applying, but, and I quote from the police report, the Simon Foundation was advised by Harwinton ACO Kim Toothill to place the dogs with some of Smollett's recommendations, which is a violation of the court order, and it was told that there was an agreement with the town attorney and Smollett's attorney to do so. Why would our town attorney purposely place the dogs in jeopardy against the terms of the court agreement? Attempts at wellness checks on the dogs with all Smollett associates were uncooperative with Norwalk ACOs and Winstead Police on multiple attempts to check on the dogs, citing instructions from Sarah Smollett's attorney, James Saracini, not to comply. Saracini's direct involvement with these fosters is stark evidence of Smollett's control over the dogs against court orders. Additionally, the fosters are in direct violation of their foster agreements with their noncompliance. The foster agreement states that at any time and for any reason, the town of Winchester may retake possession of the animal. Clearly, the dogs are being controlled by Smollett, and you have every legal and moral right to move the dogs to safe foster. However, instead of doing so, you remain steadfast in your decision to keep the dogs in imminent danger. What could possibly be the motivation here? A dog is the only thing that loves you more than itself. These dogs are victims of abuse, and yet the town is making intentional decisions to put them at further risk. This is not only morally and ethically reprehensible, it is also placing the town in contempt of court. I'm calling for the town to act immediately to place these dogs in safe foster, unconnected with Smollett. Because if town leadership is not only refusing to protect victims, but also willingly endangering them for reasons you are holding in the shadows, how can we trust you in any other respect? Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Moving on to item number 6, Town Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Board. This is a recap of the first 2 weeks of December. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the fun stuff that had been going on, I do want to start off by acknowledging something that affected both this board and other boards and residents who follow our work. The video feed failure at our most recent meeting 2 weeks ago. I know how frustrating that is when transparency tools break down. Whether you're watching a local board or turning into the news, you expect things to just work. So do I. Having that feed fail in the middle of our meeting isn't something we take lightly or want to ever see happen again. So I apologize for the disruption and the inconvenience it may have caused 2 weeks ago. Our commitment to open, accessible government means we need to be available to the public in real time without technical hiccups getting in the way. After the feed went down, we did a deep dive in what happened. We updated the firmware on the Blackmagic cloud device, which runs our video setup. As a result, we not only fixed the original problem, but we also managed to fix our local cable channel. So again, we are back live on local cable channels as well. We ran multiple tests and everything seems to be working, except tonight at about 3:30 when we went to go try and schedule this meeting to go live, we saw that the device went down again. We brought in our IT company. Thank goodness for them. They got online with me. We took the upgrade away from the device, then put it back on, and it seemed to work again. In essence, we are going to bring the IT company in. My recommendation, I don't have prices yet, I think it's time that we actually replace the hardware that's over there and hardware that either the town clerk or I am more familiar with. We couldn't even get into that particular device until we brought in IT companies and got the actual company on the line. But the device is roughly about 6 years old. It may be time to replace the device. The cameras and all that work, but I think relatively it will be an inexpensive price to just replace what gets us on our YouTube channel. Furthermore, in addition to possibly upgrading that device, we did purchase a new Zoom recorder. It is not a TASER device. As you can see, it is sitting in front of our town clerk over there. That device is recording all of the audio that goes on. According to some, that is the benchmark of recording devices. It's used in musical applications as well. So at a minimum, if the feed goes down, we will have an audio version of this Board of Selectmen meeting or any other meeting that we could place on our YouTube channel. So long story short, you might not see all of our smiling faces if the feed go down. Unfortunately, you will have to listen to my voice because we are recording the audio version of this Board of Selectmen meeting and anything else. More on it later, but again, I do want to apologize to the community. It bothered me a lot that, people may have felt that we were doing something, improper. Long story short, I had my wife tell me, you know what, sometimes even the big news channels feeds go down. So don't take so hard on yourself. I said, that's not the world I live in. Everything should always work all the time. We're gonna get it back to working again. It's working right now. Moving on, 2027 budget development. The capital committee consisting of the department heads met to review the 27 capital improvement request, provided an opportunity for departments to gain an early understanding of the upcoming capital landscape and collaborate to identify efficiencies and shared priorities. Town manager's office also sent out proposed budget request sheets. As you know, those go out very blank. Zero-based budgeting is something we're going to employ again this year. We do give them some factual numbers of what they used last year, but we sent out blank documents to our department heads and say, tell us what you need, justify what you need, and they're gonna come in beginning end of January and February to create this actual budget that we will present to you guys on or before March 15th. A little bit further on the capital plan, Pearson School roof. If you've been watching the Board of Education meeting, they talked about it at their last week's meeting. I don't want it to be any surprise, but the Pearson roof replacement, current early estimates puts the project around $2.8 million. It is a full tear and replace roof. The Board of Education is actively discussing the proposal. It is expected, and I do meet with the superintendent often, that they're gonna come before us sometime in the new year. To get the project started, we are going to require authorization from our voters for roughly about $850,000. The good news is the state law did change, that typically when you were doing roof projects or school projects or any type of project that has a reimbursement, you would need to go out and get authorization from your residents for the full amount. It is no longer the case. You only need authorization for the portion that is non-reimbursable. So roughly about $800,000 to $850,000. I don't have timing or anything on that yet. I'm gonna let the Board of Ed do what they want to do, but I just wanted no surprises that when they do come in, talking about the Pearson roof, again, it's roughly going to be about a $2.8 million project. A deep recreational trails grant application. Later this week, we're going to submit our trail recreation grant in the amount of $749,450. The real great part about this application is I think we have a well-written application, but the letters of support, and I'm just going to name a few. They came from Senator Blumenthal, Representative Larson, the DOT Commissioner himself, members of our town and state delegation, all sent letters of support for our application. So we stand pretty strong with our application, especially with some hard-hitting letters of application. I just want to take a brief moment and really thank the dedicated volunteers that are working on the Sue Grossman Ad Hoc Committee. Their tireless effort, the amount of work that they're doing is just indebted to the town forever. It is just wonderful to see the group of people come together. This would be the last stretch if we fund this. We're building a Sue Grossman Trail. So we're that close away, and I think we got a strong application. Moving on, and I am wrapping up quickly, Resident Assistant Fund. Previous meeting, I reported that the town received a $3,000 gift from the Northwest Community Bank Foundation for the Resident Assistant Fund. In addition, the town has since received an additional $10,000 grant from Northwest CT Community Foundation, made possible through Marion W.M. and Elise Edwards Fund, the Karen M. O'Connor Fund, and the Claire and Robert Dombey Fund. A special thanks go out to all of them for not only doing this year after year, but again awarding a $10,000 grant to help our residents in most need. If you are in need, please reach out to the town manager's office. Applications are available. Speed camera public hearing, just a short reminder, this coming Thursday, December 18th at 6 p.m. in this room. The town's going to be joined with Andrew Noble of SiteStream, creator and also owner. We'll review and discuss what the proposed program would mean for drivers and residents, including how the system would operate, enforce in parameters, and also process considerations. The hearing will include an opportunity for public comment, and it will be streamed on our YouTube channel. Fingers crossed on that. If you do want to participate, you obviously know if you're at home, YouTube is not a two-way. And two other quick things. Part of the 27 budget development, the town has executed an agreement that will reduce fuel costs for gasoline and diesel. This agreement is expected to generate a savings of approximately 23 cents per gallon on gasoline and 15 cents per gallon on diesel, translating to an estimate $12,000 in annual savings, assuming fuel usage remains consistent. Something that I've done in the past. I'm constantly looking at the fuel, deciding when the best time to lock in, and you can see locking in by saving $12,000 a year. I think we timed the market perfect. And last but not least, I just wanted to update that the RFP process for town attorney services is closed. I did receive the bids, we're tabulating them, and I should have that information to you sometime at that first meeting in January. With that, I'll open it to questions.
Introduction.
And, don't fall. If you follow us on Facebook, Harrington Alf made his appearance shortly after Thanksgiving. He gets into all kinds of devious issues around town hall, and tonight he decided that he wanted to come in and explore the Board of Selectmen meeting. So this is Harrington Alf. He's having a lot of fun around here. Staff like it. Staff are fighting over whose office he's going to appear in after we all go home for the night. But this is Harrington Alf, and he's saying hi to the town of Winchester right now. Thank you, Mayor.
How many, do you know how many bids are gonna get on the Pearson roof?
I don't know until we send it out to bid. It'll be a very open process. The state usually likes, a minimum of 3 bids, but it'll be a very open public process, and any roofing company will have the ability to bid for it. Keeping in mind, if it's a roofing company, you're gonna have to follow the state rules. You're obviously gonna wanna, be on their list. You have to pay prevailing wage, but it is a very open process, and no bidders are selected until it goes out to bid.
Thank you.
questions?
What is the state reimbursement percentage for the roof?
I believe it's 70%. So roughly, it's a little over $2.8 million roof. We are expected to pay about $830,000. That right now is worst case scenario. The experts that we're working with are giving us worst case scenarios. It's always good to plan worst case. And then obviously as it gets finer and finer and you go out to bid and bids come in a little bit less, that's great news. But the experts that we're dealing with feel that this thing's gonna come in about 2.8 million.
Is the roof leaking now?
Yes,
It is.
has been, yeah.
Okay.
We got a little area of asbestos. The moisture test did come back.
I saw that.
Failed completely, like absolutely.
I
It's
mean,
a
but there's physical water in the school,
physical water in the schools. Buckets are there often.
so we ain't got time to play with that.
We don't. We just, I think as a board, need to discuss timing of a potential referendum of when we think it's best to do this. Let's get all the numbers in. Let's get the Board of Ed at least here, you know, for the ask. And then if you want, I'll definitely weigh in on what I think the timing of it, of doing it and all that. Ideally, you want to do the project over the summer. If you've ever done a roof, ever seen a roof, the smells aren't the best, the tars aren't good, there's a lot of noise, especially with a tear and replace. You're not gonna be able to do it when school's in session, but we do want to time and hopefully get it done during summer of '26.
Are we looking at to remediate the mold that's probably in the ceilings, because that needs to go as well?
We're gonna have to do that, obviously, if we find mold, that's a big question mark, because as we tear things out, then we're gonna see exactly
A
how.
couple of years that's been leaking.
Yes.
So I'd be shocked if there's not mold.
I would be shocked as well, yes, I would be shocked as
But
well.
would that be part of the bidding process, or is that be a separate contractor?
That's gonna probably be a separate contract for remediation, keeping in mind that's going to drive the price up, and that's what's, we all know is the unknowns until you really get in and rip this thing off. You don't know what kind of damage you're looking at until you actually tear the whole thing off and actually get to see it. So this 2.8 could easily be 5.8. Bill's laughing at me because he's done stuff like this in a short period of time, because you don't want to send your kids to a school with mold, and you want to remediate it as quick as possible. So this is going to move quickly in '26, and I just wanted to advise you right now, again, the Board of Ed, I do speak with our superintendent often. We have meetings every other week. We try and know what each other are doing. I thought it was important to know that there's a $2.8 million bill possibly on the horizon. But I commend, the Board of Selectmen at the last budget, I think the last day, you all funded $50,000, and the town did, because they approved the budget, which got this process going. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have been able to bring in these experts, do all these tests, and actually determine. So we're well on our way, but it was good that we at least funded a little bit, started the process, and now we're getting the price.
Anybody else? Item 7, Finance Director's Report.
Hey, I'm pulling double duty tonight. I'm pulling triple duty. I was the IT guy, I was the town manager, now I'm the finance director. Apologize for Anne Marie not being present tonight. She had a commitment that she could not get out of. So this is for general fund results as of November 30th, 2025. So numbers have changed a little over the last few weeks. Current property tax is $16,618,487, which is 56.93% of the budget, versus last year $15,175,957, which was 55.49%. Past due taxes, $223,794, 63.94% of the budget. Last year, $180,036, which was only 30% of the budget. Total revenues, $20,570,548, which is 50.15%, versus last year, $18,470,360, which is 45.26% of the budget of last year. Expenditures, $17,735,266, 43.24%, versus last year, $17,398,745, which is 42.64%. Municipal aid received so far in November, we received just under $7,800 from early voting grant, We received $38.56 for the EMPG grant, which does pay for our emergency services director. We did receive $4,606 for the Case Avenue Bridge. We received $175,587 for the lead service line replacement. And the big one, because I couldn't wait to tell you this week, I want to tell you 2 weeks ago, we did receive just about $2.9 million in the DWSRF tank reimbursement. So total cash flow in the general fund as of November 30th, $26,306,078. Of that, $20,933,472 is invested. $457,798 in the Northwest Suite. Stiff has $2,605,552 in our Stiff account, and $17,870,122 in Northwest Community Bank. Total expenditures for November for capital expenditures, just under $1,400 in the police station repairs, $1,000 in the police department feasibility study, $537,356 in the SCBA replacement project. If you remember, we did receive a grant from that. We did get funding of it, so that amount was actually paid for with the grant. $5,000 for public work facility upgrade, $16,231 in annual road maintenance, $41,118 in digital radio upgrades, $2,431 in plow truck number 9 purchase, $38,674 Price Road Mill paving, $10,000 Elm Street release of retainage, $783 in Wani Road, and $35,472 for drainage. That was part of the bond. We're up there, obviously, on Highland Lake. Any particular questions or anything you'd like me to talk a little bit more about on our actual budget performance so far this year? My 2 cents, we're doing very, very well. Expenditures are coming in a little bit less, which is nice to see. We have picked up a little bit of savings along the way by just having some good conversations. So I feel very confident on the revenue side and also on the expenditure side with this budget so far, being 6 months into it.
No questions on finance? Moving on to item 8, correspondence. Does anyone on the board want to address anything? Item 9, boards and commissions. Kevin, Bill?
Tonight we have one resignation from Joseph Santoro on the Economic Development Board, Party Republican, alternate seat. We received a letter of resignation.
Thank you for your service, Joe.
We have one person applying for the Zoning Board of Appeals, Tyler Asbury, Party Democrat, alternate seat. Would be a term ending in December of 2030.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Second. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Cheryl. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Unanimous. Congratulations, Tyler.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The Economic Development Commission, there is an alternate seat. It does have a term per state statute. I get a little excitement here. It does get seated by the town manager, so if you are interested in possibly serving on the Economic Development Commission, please get a hold of my office and we'll see what we can do and get you on. It's a wonderful commission. They do great work. They support all of our businesses in town. So if you're interested, come and see me. Thank you.
Anything else? Moving on to item 10, unfinished business. Item A, charter revision discussion. Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was brought up obviously at the last meeting that we held. I believe, I don't know if you had a chance to look at your packet, I believe I've captured everything on my notes that you had all wanted to talk about. It was a possible town clerk position transitioning from appointed to hired. Then there was the 4-year term for the Board of Selectmen. There was the limiting concurrent service on multiple boards. And then there was the budget reform piece of it as well. And I think those were the 4 items that you wanted a little bit more background, you wanted my thoughts on it. I had written down a few things, the goal, the proposal, the rationale, and potentially, you know, the section, the amended section that we could potentially give to a charter revision commission. But again, this is something that you all tasked the charter commission with. So I just took what you had said at last meeting, put down some thoughts, talked with some people, and gave you the document that was in your packet, so it was available online as well. I turned it off to the board now, so you all can discuss what you want to do. And I'll be here for any support or questions you may need. Drink my water. I'm talking.
Well, I think these, you know, list of items are definitely things that we need to look and consider, you know, and have the commission consider. I think the first thing we need to also talk about is like the number of people we're talking about. It can be 5 to 15. I think 5 is a reasonable number because there's less meeting scheduling issues, less potential conflict, the ability to work better in a group or smaller setting than larger. Just curious what other people might think about that.
So I'm in favor of a smaller group as well. I think 15 would be chaos, that we would, you know, not get things accomplished very well. It has occurred to me that I might suggest or throw out there to the board that we take 5 to 7, and the additional 2 be 2 of us to be part of that commission.
I don't think we can.
You can?
We can, actually.
yeah,
We can, but the only reason and I've thought about that as well, just kind of feel like if we're on it, it's more political than if we just have people on it. I just feel, you know, if we stick to 5, and not have anyone from Board of Selectmen, just have other people who are willing to volunteer their time, that would be a very fair way. Because if we have the people come in and giving us information, you know, about what the process is, what they're going through, I think we can play a role in that way by giving information. But I think to have 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, it would have to be, you know, 1 from each party, and it's just, I think we just keep it out of the politics.
Yeah, I think we could be part of it without being political, though. I think as an advisory, not necessarily driving the meetings, but there to answer questions or to, you know, give some of our experience that the commission may not be familiar with. I just think it might be helpful to move it along constructively.
Well, I was thinking of asking Candy Perez. I think we should have a lot of, you know, I think we batted her name about last meeting too. But
Yeah, actually, I think Candy'd be a great choice. She was in favor of many of the things actually that we've talked about here during her time, so I think she'd be a great advisory. She's also aware of smaller is better to that degree, so.
I don't know if we want to throw out names just yet because of that start the process.
Right.
I thought we were trying to start the process because, you know, we want to try and get this, to get this done efficiently. It'd be nice to be able to have it, you know, ready when we do the budget referendum. So we're not just doing a vote on the charter
I don't
separate,
think
and
it'll
it's
even
not
be close
also
to
going to
budget, right?
distract from the election, you know, any elections, so.
I would say this, Cheryl, the referendum gets a fraction of the vote turnout that we get for municipal election. And I think if we're going to talk about charter revisions, and I know it feels like it's 100 years away because we all just got seated a month ago, but I'd rather see us have this discussion or this vote happening during a municipal election where 2,500 people will weigh in as opposed to, what did we get in the last referendum?
500.
Yeah, it's a much smaller number.
But then doesn't that become a campaign thing then? Then we are making it political. It's going to be who's gonna support it, who's not gonna support it, who's gonna support what and not. So that's another reason to keep it away from one of the municipal elections. And also, maybe it'll draw people to our budget referendum, which would be nice to see more people have input into that instead of minimizing the electorate in that way.
Is there a number that we have to reach for charter revision?
What do you mean by
Is it 10% of the registered voters? Or more than that?
I'm looking at our town attorney right now, and I can see he's racking his brain.
Yeah, there is a minimal non-elected vote, non-election day vote. I think it is
10% if you do it on a non-election day.
But there is a limit, you have to meet a threshold.
And if it doesn't meet the threshold, even if it does pass, it still fails.
So we're not, this is not set in stone. To be honest with you, I wanted to look over the charter and I didn't have a chance because of work, stuff here, but I wanted to look and see if there was anything else. That's not set in stone what we're doing right at this point, right?
No, it's just discussion.
Okay.
There are a few other things that we've looked at in the past, trying to uniform the requirements to be a member of a board and commission, as currently they're all over the place.
Yep.
You know, it seems like every board has a different criteria. It would make it easier to have the same for blanket across the board.
I agree. That was one that I was gonna
Although
talk
that
about.
got soundly defeated last time, unfortunately. I don't know if we want to put too many items on it as well, though, because that may just confuse voters, you know, having to read through 8, 10 charter changes.
I just want to point out, when you open up the door of charter revision, you could send them with a list. Charter revision can then suggest many other things. So you could task them to say, we do want to narrow the scope, but once the door is open, they
So
can come back with 20 items.
I believe, I agree with Selectman Marino about the, having Board of Selectmen members. I believe you can have up to 1/3 elected officials as part of the commission. I think 7 would be a great number, because I believe what's happened in the past is that there's been some disconnect between the committee and the Board of Selectmen. So I like your idea about, you know, maybe not being too directly involved, but being there as, you know, so that when it comes back to the board, we feel invested in it, we're ready to support it, and it doesn't get killed here before it goes to referendum at all. So I like that. And also to Cheryl's point, I am also a little concerned if it, I mean, I understand needing to reach the 10% threshold, but I'm also a little concerned about, you know, it becoming, I think that the charter revision needs to stand on its own for its own merits, and I'm worried that if it came at the same time as the municipal election, it could potentially become a political thing. I mean, it doesn't have to, of course, and if we're all, if we have the selectmen, you know, there and supporting it, and we're all completely on board with it, we could really maybe push it forward together. But it does run the risk of becoming a party thing rather than its own merits.
I think to your point, though, if we, after the commission does its work, if we're in agreement, you know, this board is unanimous in the agreement that the changes we want to make, then it's really not political, because we're all working on it together.
That would be,
Well,
that would
what
be
if
great.
a past example of this board being unanimous in first the budget, and then not every member of the board supporting the budget, you know, and advocating for it. So, because that became a political issue. So, that's where my concern is. I'd like to try to remove this process from politics completely, if it's all possible, because I think that's in the best interest of the town.
I just don't want 1,000 people or 1,100 people making the decision when we get double that on a municipal election. That's all.
I agree.
I'd like to see that many more people come out to be in favor or against it.
Well, I think the same thing goes for, you know, our budget resolutions. It's really frustrating when you've gotten such a small number of people. Thinking if you package these two things, that might be enough to get people out, so that we do make our minimum, and, you know, maybe people recognize how important it is to participate in these things too.
Historically, it just doesn't happen, though. For referendums of any sort other than the municipal election, all the referendum counts are half.
Well, I believe, you may know this, but I believe the water and sewer referendum last year, the year before, only had like 39 votes.
Yeah, there wasn't
Yeah.
very many.
You know, one thing too, if we did do it at a budget referendum, a concern would be, is that budget supported? Because if we have a budget go down, we wouldn't want the charter revision to go down by default, because so many people were just against the budget or for the budget. I suppose would be okay too. It's about what, $5,000, $6,000 for a standalone referendum?
Yeah, roughly. Well, maybe a little bit more.
Not the end of the world.
And what happens if it, just hypothetically, if it were a standalone referendum and we didn't get a big enough turnout, what would happen? Is that just the total
It
end? Or
fails.
it fails? And
It fails.
And then you have to start over? There's no other option like to
What does starting over look like in that case, Paul?
Yeah.
You have to go back to the commission? Do they have to do all their work again?
You'd have to do, they'd have to do all the work again, and then you'd have to do your work again. There has to be public hearings, you know, right when Charter Revision Commission is called to get ideas and concepts from the residents. They would then, you know, continue to meet, and then come back. And they're free to call as many public hearings as they wish, but by state law, they do need to, or they are required to have 2 public hearings, and then when the information gets brought over to you, you're required to have 1 public hearing before it goes to vote.
So you're realistically looking at 8-10 months?
I don't want to judge people's speed, so it
Could be a little less, could be a little more.
could be less, could be a little bit more.
And then you have the guessing of, okay, if we didn't get the turnout, did they not like the changes? Did they like the changes? Did it rain and nobody came? I mean, you just don't know what the results are there.
I will put out, and it's not something that you all don't know, but there is another election coming up in November of 26, which is a gubernatorial election. I will
Should be
say,
well-turned, a big
this
turnout.
town has tremendous turnout in presidential and in statewide elections. We're talking 70–80% of the population comes out and votes in those.
So that might be a good alternative.
That may be a good alternative, is trying to line this up to be November of 26.
I like that idea.
You know, going out that far, you know, they only have 18 months to do it, because once they call it, they only have 18 months. So I think you'd have to wait to call it. I think you guys are eager to get it going, but I think you tell them that we want this with a bow tie on it, so we could put it with, now, there's no additional costs, okay? So the argument of it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, we're already paying it, because there's that. The question that I do need to ask, though, and they don't know the answer, and I'm gonna look at our town attorney, and not to put you on the spot, because we may have to research it, because it's all new to us, is that allowed to be on early voting?
A charter revision question?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yeah.
because I would agree, but I don't,
Referendums are not typically.
No.
but I
A
wanna,
lot of our referendums are set by charter, you know, all those dates are,
Right.
all of our referendums are timed by our charter. And a charter revision would be timed by the statute.
you know what, Kev, no one's gonna hear you at home, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Too far.
I think it would be, I mean, I look at it.
Yeah, we gotta look, I don't wanna disenfranchise any voter who's taking advantage of early voting, who couldn't vote on a charter revision. It just popped into my head that, you know, early voting, and people take advantage of it, great. I don't wanna disenfranchise those people because they came in on a Saturday to vote, but they couldn't vote on the charter. So we gotta look at that. That may be an argument maybe not an argument, but a question.
Well, they could still do
They
absentee, still.
That's the question.
Yeah,
How
no,
long do
they're-
they have to be locked in, Glenn, before the election for early voting? How long do you have out the ballot fixed? How far out from the election do you have the ballot fixed? Like 3 weeks?
I think so,
Roughly that. So it would be the same.
So we would need
You'd
it
have
to
to meet the same deadline to be on the
middle
ballot.
of November, and we should be able, it's questions asked, I mean, we're still.
You got plenty of time now.
Yeah, we got plenty of time now, but I just wanted to throw out that there is another date.
It may be different because it's actually on the date of the statewide election, because I know that referendums are, previously, if they're separate, have not been able to be early vote.
And we gotta find that out, but I just wanted to.
But I think that's a good plan. That gives us
Yeah.
11 months to get this thing in a bow, as you say.
And then we would hear from probably the largest percentage of the town tied with that election.
No question.
Yeah, so.
This town could definitely get a pat on its back for the participation in presidential and statewide elections. It's up there. I do want to win the award from the Secretary of State. There is an award, whichever town has the most voter turnout. We came in like third in president. Yeah, we have great participation. And I would just remind the board, we've talked about it. We received some emails from some residents wanting to participate, but we haven't really pushed it out to our residents yet. If you like, if you're in agreement, I can begin a active marketing campaign to gather names. I can funnel them through me and then send them, I'm sure you guys get a lot of emails. I can take them and then create a list for you and then, you know, present the list at whatever meeting. But I just, we've gotten some, but I think to really, you know, push it out.
I think we need to push it and give it some time, so we get it out there, so we get all types of applicants.
Yeah, diverse pool of candidates, I
A
think would
diverse
be.
pool.
Seeing a lot of heads shaking yes. I mean, start pushing,
Yeah.
interested in charter revision. I'll get it up,
Yeah, it's the
probably
start of it
tomorrow.
anyway, so you gotta start that process.
Okay.
Any other questions we'd like to look into for charter revision?
No, but Paul, if you could
I'd
copy
like to
me
revisit
on,
that.
if you could copy us on any of the
I
proposals
didn't read it yet.
for the introduction or the invitation, or what,
Well,
just
you
keep us
said
in the
there's
loop on
one.
the whole process.
Missing the question, but that's okay. You want to be copied in on,
You said you're gonna do a marketing campaign of reaching out, just copy us on any communications and all that too.
Put it
You're
on
pretty good
Facebook.
about that.
yeah, it's gonna go on our social media channels, it's gonna go on our website. You know, I'll describe briefly what a charter revision commission is and looking for, you know, residents to step up. It'll be, you know, it'll be.
I'd be honest with you, I'd rather see people that are not involved now be involved in this.
Yeah, I think we should have some criteria for who we put on the commission. I mean, I think people that are not necessarily associated with the inner workings of what we do here in Town Hall.
Right.
People that are currently on boards and commissions, not ad hoc potentially, but at least if they're current members, I don't think, you know, given that one of the topics is about boards and commissions, we should steer clear of having any members on the commission that are currently on that. And obviously, the list will come before this group, and we'll make the selection of the 5 and the 2 of us that, if we all agree that 2 of us should serve, who that would be.
Yeah, I think there should be 7. I think there should be a couple being on this commission before. We kind of did get down some rabbit holes, and it was a little bit tough to stay focused. Also, and I'll repeat what I said last time, I think we ought to keep this language very simple on these questions, as simple as possible. So people aren't standing there for too long having to read 4 or 5 different questions. They have to be simple. Town clerk, elected, or an appointed position. Same with the rest, as simple as possible, to make it simple, and then push it once we get it and we can push it out there.
And I see the 2 of us that serve as facilitators, to just help the discussion move along, keep them, answer any questions about the specifics and, you know, not necessarily directed, so.
Yeah. And I have no issue not being on it, so. I was the last time around, I had my swing at it, so.
I just wanted to comment on Selectman Hester's recommendations and comments. What I gave you in the revision, I know it sounds as simple, but you are literally replacing words in charter. So we can't just say, well, the town clerks, you know, shall the town clerk be appointed or elected?
Right.
You know, you're seeing that there shall be a town clerk who serves as a custodian of the town's public record, land records, vital election documents, blah, blah, blah. The town clerk shall be appointed by the town manager, subject to confirmation by the board. This is just an example. I'm not
Yes.
Like,
saying.
we can put out a cheat sheet, so to speak.
Yes, you definitely.
So that clearly, this is what this is about, and that
Exactly.
being the small, simple.
Yeah, how big would the question, this wouldn't all have to go on the referendum question when they're in the voting booth, right? That you just keep it
Oh,
simpler.
I'm sure Attorney Nelligan will be weighing in multiple times on this.
Usually one sentence, you try to do one.
Right, exactly.
Say, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want 9 pages of
Explanatory-
votes.
Explanatory text that they can read if they want to.
Okay.
Our Charter Revision Commission will have access to Kevin, that is for sure. We want to make sure we follow the laws.
Anything else? All right.
I got my marching orders. I'll get it out probably tomorrow.
Thank you, Paul.
Let you know where we go.
Item 11, new business. This is the second meeting for the discussion on the draft speed camera ordinance. Meeting number 2 of 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, no changes to the actual ordinance that was written by the town attorney. Included in your packet was a brief, I had some time one night, I think the kids went to bed early, a brief Q&A that I hope you had some time to look over. I do want to publish this on social media and also on our town's website. I think it may answer some questions prior to the public hearing, but by all means, come to the public hearing, ask as many questions as you want. But this may actually spur some additional questions once people read it. Hope you had a chance. Really, I didn't want to go live with this document without, you all getting a chance to weigh in on it. I have no pride in ownership, although I did write it. Tear it apart, like it, hate it, which direction you want me to go with the Q&A for our speed camera ordinance.
Well, I did go through this, and I appreciate you putting that time into that. But there was one question that got posed, and maybe it was discussed here before, I can remember. When the whole study was done, there were some questions about why was the dam area on 44 utilized? Because it doesn't accurately reflect what's going on through downtown. Do you remember whether that was the company chose that, we chose that, or what?
Great question. At the time, the Board of Selectmen had engaged our chief of police for his recommendations of where we should put this. So that was a recommendation
Okay.
from our chief of police, and that's why that particular area, and why a potential proposed camera is going there, was by our chief of police as well. And I think it has to do with sight lines of how these cameras actually work and getting clear view of items, is what it boiled down to.
There have been a couple fatal accidents at the rock cut as well,
Okay,
speed related,
see that?
which is one of the reasons why I think you chose there.
So I have a question on the 24/7 question. It says cameras may run continuously or only during designated hours.
Yes, so by statute, we can designate time periods. This board has not discussed that, but you can say we want them on from 8 in the morning till 5 at night. You can run them 24/7, but that is up to this board as they set policy. And it would be completely up to the board of exactly when these cameras could run. I always, in my head, and I shouldn't think this, I always thought they would run 24/7, but the board does have its purview of deciding if cameras run certain times of the
Yeah,
day.
I would be in favor of 24.
I was gonna say, is there anybody on this board that doesn't think 24/7 is the time? Okay, so I think 24/7 is the answer to that question.
Some people come flying through to town at midnight as we're closing up shop.
Well, the
We're
record
seeing
speeds were not at 4 in the afternoon. They were the ones that
that. Yeah.
were
it's
crazy
real
at night.
fast.
148 miles an hour, you mean?
That one.
I think that was very important, and that's why I wanted to put it out there. We've tried to put out as much information, and I think it's important because when you have more than 75% of your traffic speeding, we have a problem.
We have a problem.
It's,
And when the people who are complaining about it are saying, well, I'll speed elsewhere then, now I'll speed through the school zone, it's just kind of like, so you're not gonna, you just, or that it's a money grab, and we're just taxing people, like, no, we're keeping people from hurting people, we're trying to keep our town safe, make it safe. That's, I was kind of shocked by some of the comments I saw about people saying, well, I can't speed, then I'm not gonna go stop at any business in downtown.
I don't want to go too deep down into the woods because
No.
we have a meeting on Thursday, but in essence, just to that alone, and you hit the nail on the head. This is not a money grab. A money grab would be putting police officers hidden in locations that you didn't know about. We're being very transparent and very open. We're gonna let you know where these cameras are. Then, we're gonna put a sign 1,000 feet before you enter it, 500 feet before you enter it, to tell you, slow down, or you're gonna get a ticket. And if you disregard all of it, the first 30 days, we're gonna give you just a warning, to tell you you were speeding. So if you come back to that area, slow down. There's no, sleight of hand or anything. We're literally telling you many times where this is gonna be.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I think it's great for transparency, and I think a lot of the comments and stuff that we read and hear are just, from misunderstanding of how it works and, just assumptions made from not really knowing all of the facts. So thank you for bringing this together, and I think that we should get it out there as much as we can.
Be busy, no, won't be that busy. Yeah, I'll get it out tomorrow. And just one last thing, if you're just coming to say, we don't have money to pay for cameras, you'll know on Thursday, the cameras don't cost us a dime.
All right, can we have a motion to accept this as a second meeting and to send it to the third meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? As a reminder, Thursday, 6 PM, this room is the public hearing on automated traffic enforcement safety devices, 6 PM this Thursday. All in favor? Unanimous? Item B, roads update.
With us tonight is our Director of Public Works. This is what we've done now for 2 years in a row. The work that has been completed this past season with a quick view of what's going to be happening over the winter. Our Public Works Director and our intern will be coming to a January meeting to preview and to show you our wonderful software that we purchased, to show you the conditions of the roads and how it grades roads and the dollars assigned to those roads. So tonight is just an overview of what we've done and where we're going. I got an advance look at it all because I need to get on Fridays.
For the record, Jim Rollins, Director of Public Works. As we did just after the budget passed, we sat down and the board had asked for a, fiscal '26 roadwork attack plan. So we put something together and I basically just grabbed that now that we're halfway through the fiscal year. We wanted to do an update to let you know, the status of the projects, both the bond projects and the capital projects from fiscal '26, as well as other capital projects that we've done, and there's a few miscellaneous things at the end. The sheet that I handed out to you, that spreadsheet, this is the results of the paving work that we just completed. I broke it down, we did several roads, several sections of roads, and a couple of kind of parking lot-y, cul-de-sac-y kind of things. And the reason I brought this copy, I was just showing it to Paul, and he says, the selectmen want to see this. Everybody asks, how much does it cost to do a mile of road? We talk about $1 million a mile, and then, well, it's half of that if you don't have to do this. Well, it's less than that if you do this. So we took some real prices for real paving on real roads that we just did. And I broke them down to dollars per square yard. Those are the green columns. Dollars per ton of asphalt placed, and then dollars per mile. And it's just a good representation to see how big the swing is from one type of a project to another. And I did tell you kind of what the treatment was. I gave you a brief overview of what was included, how thick the pavement was, how long the road was. And this is what we're gonna use as a template when we get into what roads do we wanna fund next, and get you an idea of what they're gonna cost without having to get engineers involved and spend time and money on that. We can come up with a basic amount. Keep in mind, you'll see across the very top, I have a red row, and it says kind of the miscellaneous stuff that hasn't been included. This is really just what we paid to the paving contractor. Doesn't cover the drainage, doesn't cover the tree work that we do. If sidewalks or curbing are included, actually some curbing is included, but this is basically paving prices. I just haven't had time to put all the drainage prices in and add it up. When I do, we'll have those numbers too. So that's what this is, and it's a pretty user-friendly document, and you can play with it on your own, look at your own street and say, geez, I drive in, it's 0.3 of a mile, how much would that be? Oh wow, my road would cost this much to pave. It's nice and easy to use, so have fun with that. Share it with your friends. It's a nice, quick, easy way to look at things.
Jim, I'm gonna talk quickly on
Sure.
that. So this alludes to what we're gonna do in January with all of you. We're gonna bring in our new AI software that went and drove every road in town. And you're gonna see the points it took. Selectman Bishop, you saw it, you happened to be in that day. You saw all of the pictures that this machine takes. We're gonna preview that to not just the board, but obviously to our residents as well. We'll have it on the TVs. But this is now important that we've laid the groundwork where, you know, the numbers that's been thrown around is, we're gonna give you $1 million next year in the budget. Okay, great. Then we're gonna be able to look at all the roads, and we're gonna be able to determine, okay, if we wanna spend we may get one road, because that's the road we elected. But we've done all of the heavy lifting, and now we know exactly what the costs are going to be as we do it. Keeping in mind, these are numbers today. We wait 5 more years, put an escalator on it, because everything goes up, all right? So, you know, if you wanna start addressing the problem, we're gonna show you all the worst roads in town. We're gonna tell you the dollar amount. You guys are the board, tell us where you want us to go. We're gonna come with recommendations, but ultimately, you know, it's your budget once I turn it over to you. We're gonna come with a recommendation, but ultimately, we're gonna show you exactly, well, what about this road? We'll tell you how much it costs. And, I think it's moving forward. If it's funded, we'll pave it. Jim's got no issue with paving.
It's the drainage and all this stuff
It's
that
just the
happens
drainage, yeah. That's
before
all
we
the
pave is the
stuff,
question.
yeah.
But anyway, so the bond projects, that we were planning on doing this year, we did not get to the old Colebrook Road. There was a 100-foot section of that we just couldn't fit in when we did the culvert over there. And we have a contractor chosen, the documents are signed, but he ran out of season before he could get to it. The Oakdale Drainage project is, you know, same thing I told you in July. We're researching lower cost alternatives for that and probably scaling it back and not going all the way to the top of the hill. The worst of the problem is at the bottom, so it's a reasonable solution. That is a high priority project for this coming fiscal year. Halliburton Avenue, this one's a very high priority. The 2 problems that have held us down on that are, there's still questions about the lot SIP availability. That's the funding source for the lower half of that road. I haven't gotten clear answers from the COG, and the other issue is the engineering. You know, Bart just started reviewing those plans maybe a couple weeks ago, and he's just finding a lot of things that don't make sense. The engineers chose expensive options, and when we realized that last time, we told them what we wanted, and they didn't seem real interested in changing it, so the project stalled. So we're going back to the engineers. They're under new ownership now. We're gonna give them one last chance to do it the way we want it, and if they don't, we'll find somebody else. But that's the status of those projects. Now on to some of the projects that did get done, or done is an interesting word, but have moved forward. West Wakefield Boulevard at the bottom of Forest Ave, there was 3 catch basins. We replaced, added, you know, nice deep sumps to them, piped down to the lake. That one is done. There was an area 817-ish to 825 East Wakefield Boulevard, where we get a lot of icing and a lot of water bleeding through the roads. We added some under drains. That section is done. Last year we had a new problem with ice flows coming out of an old well over there, and we don't know why. It's never happened before. Apparently nothing has changed. We didn't do anything yet to address that. We're gonna watch it right from the start this year to see what happens. So far, we haven't had any issues, so go figure. But the under drains are done. We did a section of roughly 400 feet of under drains in the 229-ish area of West Wakefield Boulevard. That's completely done. And there's still 4 projects on West Wakefield that are delayed, mostly by surveyors, in order to design the proper stormwater treatment devices. you need to have an accurate survey, and we've just had a hard time getting surveyors. We got one on board, but he's so far behind that he's just not getting to it. So then, the engineering firm we're using just acquired a firm with a surveyor. So we're looking at all options to try to get these things moving. So we'll know more on that soon. The Grantville Road Bridge, public comment is being evaluated, and that's what happens before they go to final design phase. Just maybe a month or so ago, 2 months ago, DOT postponed the start of that until spring of 2028. It was supposed to be spring of 2027. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're changing the design so much. They didn't tell us. They just said this is the new date. South Road, that's one that's always at the top of the list of people to want to have done. We're kind of scoping that project with the engineer right now. Fortunately, we chose an engineer who lives on the road and knows the drainage problems, and so I think that's going to really help, every little detail on that. Wani Road, the paving is done. We just need roadside restoration over there. That's another one of those really nasty roads up in Winchester that was almost unplowable, and it's really nice now. Sidewalks. We have we've signed a contract with Martin Laverio. It's a construction company out of Bristol, and they're ready to start in the spring. We just have to decide which of the sidewalks. We did unit prices for that, so that we can just take that bid and go to wherever the most important, or the most strategic is probably a better word, sidewalk is. We're gonna try to wrap those into big chunks to help the unit prices come down, just kind of the quantities of, or the economy of scale. The very first one that we want to do is on Park Place. It's in front of the cemetery there. The reason that's number one is it's a town-owned parcel, so we're responsible for that sidewalk, and we want to extend the offer while we're there to those businesses along Park Place, and we will do the work, and then they will pay us back over time. That's the sidewalk revolving fund. And we've mentioned it to a few people, and they're like, wow, that makes sense. We can leverage our money, we can get economies of scale, we can do the legwork, but we're still consistent with the charter that says that sidewalks are the responsibility of the property owner and not the town. So it's like the only way we could figure out to make this work for everybody. Newfield Road, we've begun the internal planning of the drainage. That's really the first step. The drainage part of that project is budgeted for fiscal '27, which we're going into, and then the paving will follow. Been working with Anne Marie a little bit about how to phase the borrowing so the money's available when we go. This is the single biggest project, I believe, on the list. So we've got to be careful of when we go out on the project and when we have the money to pay for it.
How long is that, Jim? What's the distance on Newfield?
I don't think I wrote that down. I don't think I have that here. You're a Winchester guy.
It's a couple miles from the
Is it?
town line to the center.
Yeah, it's
Are we
long.
doing that much of it? Is that the plan?
Yeah, the plan is to do it
It's-
end to end, yep.
Okay.
It's pretty, you've driven it.
I've
Have you
been
ever
on
been?
it, yes.
It's
Yeah.
pretty much shot end to end, so
Yeah, so it's,
you know when you hit the state road, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you know when you hit Torrington as well.
And you hit Torrington as well.
Torrington did theirs, what, 5 years ago?
Yep, and it's still in really nice shape.
And then and that's when our complaints went through the roof. As soon as Torrington did their end, you got to ours, the phones just started ringing, and they haven't
Did
stopped.
you drive that AI unit up Newfield
Yeah,
and it survived?
it's isolated by the suspension of the vehicle.
Ah,
That's
Yeah.
good.
Anyway, so that's the that's the plan for Newfield. We really want to get that one started, get the drainage in, and part of the drainage is to assess, when we do the crossover pipes, on the drainage. We'll be assessing what there is for actual pavement depth and aggregate underneath to know what we need to do to supplement that. That's what we did on Wani Road, and we ended up having to add like 63 triaxle loads of aggregate to the base material and grinding it back in just to get the structural integrity back into the base. So we'll do the same thing on Newfield. That was Newfield. So those were the bond projects. In fiscal '26, we were given some money for the drainage on Price Road. It was worse than we had realized when we spec'd out the paving price. So the board gave us money to do that drainage. The drainage is done, the paving is done, the site restoration is done. We were in and out of there nice and quick. Nice brand new 29-foot wide road. And that's a complete industrial area, so you're serving some of your commercial businesses. The residents don't see it so much, but at least you're showing some love to the commercial area. We got $75,000 for guide rail. That's all been spent. That was the last half of the Taylor Brook Road guide rail. The old stuff was rotted off. We replaced the guideposts a couple of times with stuff we took from the state when they stopped using it. They gave us all their stuff that wasn't rotten. We used that until it rotted away. Now it's been replaced with the good steel stuff. Chapel Road has been, there was 3 sections there that were really bad. The plow turnaround at the end, we're talking the Winchester Center side of Chapel Road. The plow turnaround is paved. We had 2 drainage areas that were problematic, and the pavement was just garbage. Now that we fixed those, there's a couple other sections that look pretty bad. But we did the sections that we were planning on doing. That's all done. Dayton Road was about 650 feet. That was peeled up the old stuff and paved with 4 inches of new, a couple of aprons, which topped off the drainage problem we did the year before. So all those, those were the 3 road projects that we had in the capital budget for fiscal '26. In previous fiscal year capital projects, there's a few projects I'll give you an update on. The White Street Bridge is still, there was public comment. We had a big public hearing, and there was public comment, and all of that has been brought back to DOT, who is kind of the lead on this. Any bridges that are more than 20 feet in span go through a DOT project, which reimburses us 100% the cost. So we're kind of, stuck by their rules, stuck by their timelines, to some degree stuck to their design. We can have input, but they don't always take it because they're the ones paying for it. So they're evaluating, everything from the public comment. Hurlbut and Birdsall, we had money in the budget to design an improvement to a failing retaining wall, fencing, drainage, sight lines, and a few other things. Fortunately, we didn't spend any of that money because we hired an intern this summer who was an engineering intern from UConn, and she did it. And so we've got that $50,000 that we can put towards construction. We don't have an estimate on that, but at least we've got some seed money for that. And the design is done, so we know what we can do to the intersection, and then we can know what we can do for water quality and just visual appeal there. The Risha Beach intersection, the intern finished the lot and intersection design, so we know basically what that pattern is going to be, how many cars it fits, how it works for the rec department, and then we still don't know what to do about the drainage partly because of the Hurlbut and Birdsall intersection. The water from the beach parking lot ends up in there. So we need to do a little bit of drainage calcs just to make sure that everything works. Skinner Road received $100,000 from capital money a couple years ago, and that is probably enough based on the drainage prices we had on Wani Road. That number should be just about right for Skinner Road. We'd like to get that in And then there's gonna be another need for, again, based on these paving prices, for another $225,000 for the actual paving of that road. That's another one that's nearly unplowable, narrow, deep gullies on the sides, poor pavement, terrible base, really a brutal road. Rockwell, Superior Ridge, and Spring Streets, they're all in a, combined in a basic area where the gas company did work a few years ago. We got fee in lieu of money for their pavement, put it in a pot so that it's ready to go, but we didn't have them pave it because we need to improve the drainage. So that drainage has been bid, the contract is signed and ready to start in spring of 2026, if not late winter. If the weather looks good, the contractor wants to just pick a section and piece it together. So that's the status of those projects. What we did for the annual roadway maintenance budget, that's a $485,000 budget that we have. Basically goes to crack seal, chip seal, hazard trees, line painting, shimming, tire ruts, patching potholes, and all that stuff takes up, about about 350,000 of that, leaving 135,000 for everything else. At the halfway point through the year, we've completed the paving improvements on Holmes Drive. That was 300 feet. We did about 1,000 feet on Mountain Road. That was one, and we only did one lane there because only one lane was in bad shape. We did maybe a third of the crossover pipes on Danbury Quarter Road, another road we get a lot of complaints on. We did this north end of Sucker Brook Road. We fixed a sidewalk and curb issue on Oak Street. We finished the drainage on Morningside and Brookside. The paving isn't done, but we do have some fee in lieu of money from the gas company for that and the water company for Brookside. We bandaged a few drainage structures on Oakdale Avenue, and that was bandaged only because Oakdale was planning on having that big drainage improvement project. Other crossover pipes and catch basins, just steady progress on that. We just keep banging away at those, and that's typically done either through our drainage bid or through the guys. In order to keep the prices down, if we have one-off drainage issues, the Public Works crew does those. If we can lump them into a big, geographic area, then we sub them out and we can avoid the mobilization costs. Dirt road repairs, again, steady progress on that. Some years ago, probably 7 years ago, we changed to a different type of material, which has allowed us to catch up on our dirt roads. The town had always used a very fine aggregate because it's real easy to grade. We put in a much heavier, bulkier aggregate, and it just holds in place during those rainstorms, holds up to the snowplows a lot better, gives us we have to do a lot less maintenance, which allows us to catch up on a lot more of those roads. And then out of that 135 that we still haven't spent doing all that, it's just whatever comes up. You get calls that just keep coming and coming, and you can't answer them all. In the miscellaneous topic, the Bridge Street intersection, as you all know, we had a public hearing on that bombed. So we took the, in a word, it bombed. So we took the comments, and Bart and I sat down, and there was really one comment, keep Bridge Street open. Make everything better, similar to what you did, but keep Bridge Street open. That was made perfectly clear. So Bart and I went back through, the plans, sat with Paul a couple of times. We talked over the options, and we've come up with, an improvement that keeps Bridge Street open, up and down both ways, but still streamlines the intersection, makes the traffic flow more obvious. So we're gonna push that along and see where we can get that. And I don't know if there is a time limit on that grant, and I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, we went out for an extension, we're waiting to hear.
Yeah,
but,
yep.
That's Tom and I, we're on
Yep.
that.
And then, lastly, I don't know why this was put at the miscellaneous, but the Holland Beach parking area, and then, several 100-foot section of West Wakefield Boulevard was redone. All new drainage, all new road base, parking lot paving, handicap ramp. It still needs curbing, that'll come in the spring, and then just topsoil and seed. So, it got off to a slow start. A lot of that because we just didn't have manpower. We were down 5 guys in the street department most of the year. They just keep getting hired away from us faster than we can bring them in. And so, yeah, it was a busy, we finished strong, started slow but finished strong. So, a lot of stuff there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If you have any requests for the next time we do an update, if you can get those requests specifically written to Paul ahead of time, that would be helpful.
Questions from the board?
Just one thing before, Jim, can you send, that report would have been included in your packet, but knowing Jim, it was printed at
About 15
probably
15 minutes ago.
6:45 before he came over here. So get it to me, I'll get it to the board, but I'll also, most importantly, get it up on our website, public works section of the website, where we've listed at least 5 or 6 different road reports since I had gotten here. So we'll get it out on the web. So if you weren't following along,
Yeah,
we'll
there's
get
a
that
lot there
report.
to
Yeah, we'll
turn
get that
around.
report on our website for you. But please, board.
So by the way, Jim, it was really nice to see the end of the year push, right? It was exciting to see all this stuff getting done and some nice, clean, new roads to drive on. So great job. I have a question about the lake drainage in particular. We're doing little spots of changing catch basins, and you said putting in deeper basins than are there. What is the rest of it like? I mean, how much,
That's the
how
toughest question
bad
you'll ever ask.
how bad are we, hurting the lake with runoff? I know that I see in rainstorms as I drive around, I'll see where the big conduit comes out of the walls and it's a brown stream that goes out. So there's definitely stuff in those catch basins that's not being caught. So how bad is the rest of it, and do we have that on the sites? I mean, obviously preserving the water quality is paramount to everybody in this town, so.
Yeah, so there's a couple answers to that. There's a lot of sources of, for lack of a better term, contamination to lake water. Everything from fertilizers to impervious surfaces to road runoff to salt to heavy metals to pesticides, fertilizers, herbicides. The brown water that you speak of that flows out of these pipes and into the lake is typically from heavy rain events that happen kind of in the perimeter of the lake. One of the big ones is Norcross Road. That one, if you get a big enough storm and it lasts long enough, you'll get a big pump of water. You get a lot out of Sucker Brook. There's a lot of ATV damage behind Sucker Brook Dam, and as the water flows through, all that mud just finds its way in. Surprisingly, you even get some dirty looking water from Taylor Brook, and that's virtually all woods. There's almost zero developed area behind that. And that's a good indicator of just the dust and dirt that falls to the ground every day. Decaying leaves, dust, dirt, whatever. And you get a rainstorm, it washes in, hits that river, comes down, and I mean, it looks bad. I've been out there and I've actually taken samples in glass jars of that. You let it sit for a couple hours and it's crystal clear. It just looks that bad because it's just all in turmoil. But to answer your question, what's being done? So in the bond, there's a Highland Lake drainage, chunk. It's essentially, I think you've probably heard the term MS4. MS4 is municipal separate storm sewer systems or something like that. And it's a program that we are soon to be required to partake in, where you need to document all of your outfalls, wherever an outfall is, that's the end of a pipe, the end of a swale, wherever a storm water treatment device discharges, we need to document it with GPS, we need to photograph it, we need to test it, we need to sample it, we need to know what pollutants are coming out of there. We need to know the sizes of every crossover. That's actually not part of MS4, that's part of another requirement that's been thrust upon us. But anyway, this program is really in-depth, and the money that is in the bond has two phases. There's kind of the Highland Lake drainage, and then, what was the other one called? Do you remember what that other, it was part of the drainage one, retrofit, Highland Lake retrofit. That is the beginnings of this MS4, and we have contracted with a firm, Tie and Bond, to help us start that off on the right foot and do it efficiently. Everybody has their own idea which is the worst offender to the lake. Some people think it's the big one that's throwing all that water in. Some people think it's the little tiny one. Some people think it's their neighbor that's mowing their lawn into the lake. We need a little help. I have my own opinions, and nobody seems to be in agreement. So we've enlisted a professional firm to help us with that. It's a relatively modest start, but they're going to get us started in an efficient manner, which will help us identify exactly which of those products or which of those problems are the ones that should be addressed first, or where can we get the most bang for the buck. We've got a limited amount of money. Where can that money go? In the meantime, we're just going after low-hanging fruit. Where we are doing basin work, we're putting in deep sumps. The deep sumps are great for the big sediment, but the high nutrient loads are on the very fine stuff that makes its way through. Catch basins don't really help that.
Is there a fix for that?
There are fixes, but there's not fixes that work well in small areas. Ideally, you would run it through a grass swale, but that takes up property that people want to use for partying at the lake.
Right.
So it makes it really hard. There's mechanical systems, hydrodynamic separators. They help, but they don't eliminate the problem. So the answer we're going to find is all of the above. There's going to be where we can find room for a grass swale or infiltration or hydrodynamic separators or improved vegetated buffers or better drainage in the roads, absorbents in the catch basins that catch metals and nutrients and hydrocarbons. It's going to be all of that. I just don't have the ability to know which are the best treatments and where. So that's why we're bringing in a professional. So we got him on board. I got a meeting tomorrow, and I think we're going to just pull the trigger, and now we have to start getting them all the data, all the Highland Lake water quality reports, all of that stuff. They've seen some of them. They want more of them, so they want to be able to track what's going on, and use their expertise because it's way over my head.
Do we clean out the catch basins every year?
We clean out the catch basins around the lake in the very first thing in the spring and then the very last thing in the fall. And then we sweep the lake roughly every month throughout the summer, hoping to keep those basins from filling up. And that's gonna continue. There's no reason to stop it. Yeah, so but those are the things we should be doing all over town. And that's what MS4 is gonna tell us, how often you have to do that.
Got it.
One of the documentation aspects of it is every time you clean a basin, you're supposed to document how much you took out. So then, instead of maybe doing them every year, you can do them every 2 years, every 3 years. So there's also some savings you get from doing that. But once you get there and you open it up, you might as well clean it. So that's kind of what we're in now. And we'll start developing, we'll start seeing trends. This is not an overnight thing. This is a decade-long project before you really see, benefits. But yeah, you asked a big question, and it's a big answer, and I just
which got me thinking, because I've seen containment apparatuses that will fit underneath the catch basins and catch all this stuff coming in, but they're about the size of almost half this room. So, because you wanna separate that water, because you have, that's where your specific gravity comes in, your lights and your heavies. Your lights will just run right off. So I'm just gonna jump to sidewalks, since I'm talking now. You mentioned sidewalks, and I remember back when we were doing the bonding, I think we're talking about doing them around the schools. Is there still a lot of walkers that are going to school?
Yeah,
You
so.
know, around Pearson and Hinsdale and toward
Yeah, so
Gilbert and.
there was a map called Critical Sidewalks, and it was basically the sidewalks where you have the most school activity, most recreational activity, and most senior citizen activity. And it was basically a loop kind of around the schools, around Willow Street,
Yep,
and then
yep.
down towards kind of the Gay Street area. That's still the plan. The Park Place is part of that
Yep.
that stretch. Main Street also wants sidewalks, so we've got to look at, we got to balance it all out. Which sidewalks you do is it's kind of dependent on what road work you want to do too.
Yes.
You got to be careful not to do a sidewalk if you're not going to do the road, or if the road needs a treatment simple like a mill and pave, you can do
Sure.
the sidewalks ahead of time.
Sure.
You've got to put if you're gonna do a sidewalk, you gotta do your ADA ramps, you gotta do all of this stuff, so.
Yep.
What looks, what looks like a simple map that we put in for the bond, there's gonna be extenuating circumstances, where some roads, or some sidewalks may get skipped and some may get added, but that's, we had to put out a map just to at least communicate the point.
Yeah, because I remember that when we were going for the bond, way
Yeah.
back when the last finance director was here.
Yep.
We talked about the sidewalks and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
he's actually the one that developed the map. Every lunch, he went out walking and he did an inventory of what he thought were the most important ones.
So you don't have to go walking anymore.
I'm just wondering how the finance director has lunch.
So if you're gonna do the sidewalks, I ask that you do the entrance to Pearson School, cause that is a cluster. Every day that we have an election over there, people's cars get destroyed going out of that parking lot. Whoever designed that ramp was a nipplehead, because the driveway is bigger than the ramp, and you're driving off the side of the sidewalk. So that needs to be fixed. But that's not my question. My question is, did you save the millings from the mill and paves this year?
I don't know.
I think some you did. Some I think.
All right, because I mean, we're really trying hard to get you money to pave, and as you know, there's a lot of cost in dirt roads and stuff. When I was at your thing for the invasive class, I noticed some large piles out back. I'd like you to consider crushing. If you wanna, I can hook you up with a couple of people that do it, give you a cost. In the long run, it saves the town thousands and thousands of dollars. There's a lot of roads that you're gonna be paving that are gonna need to be, you know, the base is gonna need to be upgraded. Millings is perfect for a base, for paving roads. I've used it, I'll swear by it. All my dirt roads are millings. I even chip sealed some of them, because they were hard, before you couldn't even drive on them, they're like mud, foot thick. So, just, you know, we're really trying to, that'll help steer maybe some more money that we can't afford to give you, towards paving, if we save on so if you pay $10,000, you got $50,000-$60,000 worth of process.
Yep.
is what
So,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
so let me answer that. So, we end up with millings, you know, they come in, they go out. By the time, the roads that we've been milling are so bad, it just turns to dust. They're not the best mill. You can see that pile was gray, it didn't even have black left in it. So they're not great. They can supplement the crushing. We did get money in capital a few years back to crush that big pile. I don't know if you made it all the way out back. We got a huge pile that's ready to crush.
Go that far.
We've been holding off on that until we can get the invasive species under wraps, because we don't want to be crushing that in and spreading that stuff
spread it all over
yeah,
town.
don't do that.
So we did our first treatment of spraying while we still had Chuck here. He was a licensed applicator. So we did all of Public Works once. We wanna do that at least one more time before we crush, and then we'll have that pile.
That's a
of
smart idea, because I got the same problem.
Yeah, it's wicked.
But, you know, we're really, I mean, I'm pushing hard for this board to give Public Works more money for paving, if we can in the budget.
Yep.
And that is an avenue for us to save and then put towards that too, so.
Yeah, we save all the stuff that the contractors bring back. We separate out the stuff that can be crushed, and, you know, like Elm Street, all that stuff, all the pavement, all the aggregate came back here. We put all the good stuff in one pile where we can crush it. All the glacial till underneath went to a different spot that we just graded out. So, and we have a huge, now, we've been doing that ever since I've been there. Before that, they just dumped everything in that big mountain back there, so it's all mixed up. What we do with that's a whole nother story.
You can pick through it, get the rocks, and then you have
Yeah,
to
get
deal
the
with
big stuff, that's
other,
kind of our thought.
I got lucky this year because of the wall for,
Oh,
44 there that
Sure.
was caving in. I got all the rock from that. Oh my God, the process, it came up beautiful. so.
nice. What size are you making?
3/4.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I do the same with the millings, and I also have the screener, so if you need that.
Yep.
I screen the millings when they come in just so the chunks are out.
Yep.
But, I mean, I don't know if you wanna do your dirt roads, but you don't have to do that if you do it as a base. But I screen it for the dirt roads, and then I grade it about 3-4 inches, and then roll it in August, and it's hard as a rock, we're plowing it, not a problem. We can actually salt it.
Yeah, see, our millings don't hold up, they're so dried
Yeah,
out.
so there's no oil left.
So we don't get as good a benefit. You gotta do that sooner, which hasn't been our strong suit.
Hasn't been, gotcha.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. See you back here in January, when we really get to have a little,
Oh, that's the Violytics one.
yeah, the Violytics, where we get to show them all the fun software we
Okay,
got.
great.
Sounds really fun.
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Moving on to item 12, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Just make sure you turn on the mic. You just hit the red microphone button.
Just anywhere on the edge where the microphones are.
There you go.
There you go.
You're good.
Yes. I'm just here to inquire on the committee that was supposed to be forming for Wallens Hill project, the development, because I haven't heard anything. I've inquired, sent emails, made phone calls, but no one's answered my question, so.
So, as you see, we're going in executive session to discuss Wallens
Right,
Hill and
I saw that,
Mountainside.
yeah.
So, coming out of that, I may have a direction on which way we're gonna move.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Anyone else wish to speak? Moving on to item 13, executive session. Discussions regarding 508 Main Street, Wallens Hill Mountainside property, 52 White Street. Taking with us Town Manager Harrington, David,
We're gonna bring our realtor,
Rita Dave Satarana,
we're gonna bring our town attorney, Kevin.
Town
Howard.
Attorney Kevin Nelligan,
And we're gonna bring in our zoning enforcement officer for 508 Main Street and Wallens Hill, but he will not be present for the 52 White Street discussion.
Jeff Green.
Jeff?
Motion,
So moved.
Second?
all in favor? And it is 8:35 PM.
Just, when you're walking up, if you don't mind just turning your microphones off. You too, Will.
construction tonight?
He was, yeah. I'm going live.
Yep.
And we are back from executive session at 9:13 PM.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move the following properties to a town meeting for the sale of 508 Main, 516 Main, 30 High Street, and 52 White.
Second.
Oh,
I'm sorry, to be held in this room on January 20th at 6 PM.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, we'll get that scheduled immediately.
Next.
I also move that we authorize Paul Harrington to request proposals from Stoneleaf, Kennelly Development Group, Carabetta Development to accept proposals for Wallens Hill.
Just second.
One correction, and I want to say it right, it's Gamal,
Gamali?
Garamel,
Garamel, okay.
not the.
So Stoneleaf, Garamel Development Group, and Carabetta to accept proposals for the Wallens Hill property.
Second.
Submission date's on the RFQ, RFP, so I believe it's February 1st.
Okay, we have a
It's either
motion.
February 1st or 15th.
We have a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you.
Item 15, Selectmen's comments and reports. Anyone have anything?
No, but I saw you,
No, I just
Did you
breathed
have
because I'm done talking. That's how mine was. I'm done.
You're gonna need a Snickers.
Well, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever applies for you, enjoy.
Stay warm and safe.
I just wanted to thank Sergeant Hubbard from Winchester Police. I got an opportunity on December 6th to do my third ride-along with the police department to get an idea of what they experience, and I will tell you that we had one incredibly busy night. Right after roll call at 4 o'clock, we were going nonstop until we couldn't go out anymore because we had a prisoner in the house, so about 10:30 I left, but it was a really busy night, and we had 4 people on, and literally, we couldn't get to every call in a timely manner, so I will tell you, they worked their tail off down there, and we tried to do radar on Main Street for a little while. We got about 8 minutes in before we were called off to another emergency, so they work very hard, and I want to thank them all for the work they do, and thank you for Sergeant Hubbard for letting me tag along for the evening.
Anyone else? This past Friday night, the YMCA held Freezing for a Reason in East End Park. It was very cold. The Boy Scouts spent the night out in their cardboard boxes. The VFW Post 296 was there, and there were several members of the YMCA and the Winston Fire Department there as well, including our real estate former fire chief. This coming Saturday from 9 to 11, once again, I'll be at Stop and Shop ringing the bell. It's going to be a very cold day, so come and bring your pocket change. Once again, echoing what Cheryl said, Merry Christmas to everyone, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Henry, if you're watching still. There's Glenn. With that,
Make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second? All in favor? Next meeting, 2026.
January 8th, I think it is.
All right,
What?
is it the 8th?
Yeah, I think it is.